Yeah, so this was pretty interesting week. So this happened on Monday, right? Then on Tuesday, Raja Koduri, the head of Radeon for years, quit AMD. He was supposed to be on sabbatical for a few months, but then Tuesday he quit. People were surprised. And then Wednesday, what happened? I asked why your mouth's full of water.
Oh, I thought you were gonna talk about this one. Raja basically says, "See ya." He's like, "Hey, everybody, I'm over at Intel." Like he's like took off his red shirt and put on his blue shirt, and he's over there sitting Intel right now. I'm gonna guess.
I guess he made some
he's
good
at
friends.
Intel to head up, design a high-end discrete graphics for a broad range of computing segments. So Intel is kicking off high-end discrete graphics division that it didn't have before.
Big news. Snipe over on YouTube wonders what Raja can do with a budget that Intel can provide him.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it really does kind of change things around. I mean, to me, the bigger thing is like Intel again finally cares about high-end graphics, right? I mean, they've done it a couple times before.
I think it's more about the data center and going after NVIDIA for those data center AI machine learning dollars than it is about PCs. But it would be nice if we have a third player in the PC space too.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't specifically say where it's going to go. It's just kind of like it'll end up in data center. It'll end up in client, I'm going to imagine. It'll probably trickle down a client. Although maybe that's the easiest place they can get, get it out, though. In PCs. God, it is Friday. I need a beer. How come you didn't bring a beer in here, Adam?
It's not a live
But people worry about, won't they get sued into oblivion? Because, supposedly in graphics IP, it's very locked down. And it is. But people forget that Intel has been making graphics chips for years themselves. I mean, they make graphics cores. So.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the landmines for intellectual property are just the patents. I don't know how you avoid them. Like, between NVIDIA and AMD, who basically bought everybody who went out of business, they probably own 90% of all the IP out there. What I do kind of wonder is how all of this affects all of the Intel licensing. Like Intel has a license with NVIDIA that everybody's mentioned many times before. And that is not because I think Intel is like, hey, we're using an NVIDIA graphics core, but it's like, we got in a lawsuit and we've agreed to license it from them. We may not even be using anything they have, but that doesn't mean anything with the law of the land, right? I mean, just because it's a similar concept might mean you could get sued. It's the
same reason that all the Android developers license Microsoft patents.
Right. But I kind of wonder how this works because Intel will now clearly they want to. I think you're right, Brad. They're worried about NVIDIA. They want to get in the data center. They want to make sure that they don't wake up one day and everybody's buying NVIDIA GPUs for data centers instead of buying Intel CPUs.
So Jeffrey over on YouTube is asking, wouldn't there be a non-compete clause in Russia's?
Yeah,
I don't think non-compete clauses are legal in California. So that's where all this is happening.
Yeah, and then I think,
didn't know that.
But AMD did release a statement saying we will defend our stuff, right?
Yeah.
Well, that I have it right here. I can read it out for everybody.
Do it.
It is standard practice for all AMD employees to sign an agreement that includes post-employment confidentiality and non-solicitation obligations. Other companies are familiar with this requirement and understand legal obligation to protect and maintain the confidentiality of AMD's information, blah, 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 blah. The industry is well aware that AMD has industry leading graphics IP, and if necessary, we will vigorously defend it. So it's not non-compete. They're saying you can't go to Intel and talk about AMD's secrets, and you can't try to hire AMD people.
Right.
Yeah,
so, I mean, anyone who is going to make a move like this would probably not have done it without some legal counsel, is my guess. So I'm pretty sure that whatever is happening, it's being done very delicately. And I think AMD issued that statement. My take on that statement is just AMD is saying like, hey, reminder, we better not see anything that you know about that's confidential to us. Otherwise, we are going to sue. Otherwise,
Infinity or Fabric.
Right. Otherwise they can't touch any of that.
Yeah. I kind of wonder what like Raj's last week was before sabbatical. Like, hey, what you doing, Raj? I just printing stuff out. You want me to do that for you? No, it's good. I got it. No, I can do it for you.
Well,
I can staple it. No, it's cool. I just gonna be doing some fishing. Just want to print out Google Maps.
Yeah, like my kids want me to print the report.
All the paper's gone. You must print out like 800 pages. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Just giving him a hard time.
So, who should be more worried about this, NVIDIA or AMD?
It's bad for both, but NVIDIA is the ones who should be worried, I think. Between the AMD Intel chip, I think. I mean, what if... Sure, it's targeting the data center, I think. Like I said, I think this is because they want to get in the data center. But what if this bit with the, as I said, I think, Apple making them integrate the AMD chip into the new MacBook Pro makes them go, hey, we should just start doing our own GPUs there too, so that we don't have to have Radeon next time.
Didn't NVIDIA issue a statement already? I thought I saw something about that pop up my newsfeed, but I haven't had a chance to read it yet.
Jensen, I think, was throwing shade, right?
It's a 1080 Ti.
No, I mean, like, I think Jensen was throwing shade.
Yeah, Jensen was, it was their quarterly financials, and people were asking them questions, and basically every answer was, we're great, and they're not going to catch up to us, so good luck to them. But with much more shade.
Yeah, as only Jensen could do, right? I gotta say that I'm gonna take it old school here, and I'm gonna go all the way back for people who remember. There's a couple failed products which most people just don't remember.
Gordon minute.
No, look, go all the way back, and I remember because I worked for Boot Magazine at the time, and we had run an interview, and it was about Intel and i740. Intel, I think they bought Real 3D. And Intel was like, oh, my God. Like, and we're talking, of course, the 1990s, right? So in the 1990s, Intel, which, of course, you think people think Intel's a force now. In the 1990s, Intel was like AT&T or the federal government, an unstoppable force. And everybody was like, oh, it's over for everybody. This is like Intel getting into graphics. There's no way anybody's going to survive, right? It's going to, of course, at the time you had 3DFX, you had NVIDIA, there must have been like 6 or 7 or 10 or 12 different graphics players. Intel's like, oh yeah, this is like big, this is it. And of course, it went nowhere. It absolutely went nowhere at all. Completely just fell on its face, imploded. And they gave up. They turned it essentially into integrated graphics. They said, we don't care anymore. And then the other one is Project Larrabee, which was, hey, we're going to do discrete graphics card. In fact, they got all the press in it must have been early 2000s that we're going to show you something. We're going to show you our graphics card. We're coming back into high-end graphics. We're serious this time. We're showing it to you running. I talked to a couple of OEMs like, yeah, actually in the lab, it's competitive, or it looks very competitive with, NVIDIA and AMD's products, or ATI at the time. And of course, it blew up and went nowhere. So
the difference between those and this is that those were for gamers at this time. Now there's big data center money tied up in this, which I think puts a little fire into the seat.
Yeah. I mean, I got to say, because they really sort of went into denial mode. I think they did not want to admit that, the GPU was actually doing really well in data center as it is.
So
between, Epic's launch, which was pretty strong, I think, and NVIDIA just chewing up data center, that's where Intel makes a lot of money. Qualcomm even just launched data center chips earlier this week. So
yeah,
they must be sweating right now.
I don't know about Qualcomm personally, but
so I don't know how to say his name. SM Farhad Uzman over on YouTube says, making GPUs is not a one-man job.
No.
How much, Raja leaving, he wasn't his own team. Are we making a bigger deal of this essentially?
I don't think so, because clearly this guy was running RTG. He's been in graphics for a long time, and I know Raja. He is super smart. There is a reason
Friend
why
of the show, Raja.
Everybody talks about Raja when he goes places. Right, it's a mover and a shaker. yeah, it's not one person. It is never just about one person, but it's about a person building a team, sort of seeing where, what the goal is, and then getting all the pieces. And Intel does have incredible resources. Also, they have their fabs are the envy of the free world, right? They make the best chips in the world. So you put that, and you put the right team in place, you put the right architecture in place, and yeah, who knows where it's going to go. But at the same time, it's not going to turn apart over, and we're not going to see like, oh, brand new Intel discrete graphics card in 12 months. If they did, people would know. That is something worth like, holy smokes, dropping your job up. But it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
I think it's worth remembering too that AMD's graphics division was a big mess a few years ago. Remember all the jokes and all the derision and stuff about AMD software drivers being so bad? That was not very long ago. But then they developed, they created the Radeon Technologies Group and put everything under one house and made Raja the boss of it. And they've really turned it around in that little bit of time. Like, people dump on Vega, but the improvement in Radeon Technologies Group since it was formed is pretty massive, I think. And I think we shouldn't forget that was pretty, sizable difference compared to where we were a few years ago.
Well, and hopefully he left a culture behind that helps facilitate growth in the future. I mean, I think it could continue to be a good thing for AMD.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. They're still AMD.
Yeah.
One person leaving doesn't mean anything. I mean, they're still AMD. So.
Yeah. Although I do wonder, because when he took a sabbatical, people were like, oh, is this because Vega was not what people expected? Did he leave AMD under his own volition? Of course, we're all speculating. We have absolutely no idea. We're just speculating here. But there was a lot of like raised eyebrows when he left. And like, so I do. What do you think? Do you think, was Vega a success? Was it enough to, I don't know.
I don't know. That's all internal stuff. No idea. I'm not going to speculate too much. But
well,
I don't think
externally,
we're
we're consumers. We're the ultimate consumers of the technology.
I don't think we've seen Vega truly shine yet. I think that Vega has a lot of forward stuff built into it, which you shouldn't buy today because you don't buy promises for the future today. But I think Vega, I want to see what these MacBooks with Vega in them are like. I want to see stuff like that, I mean, I think there's a lot. These are going to be going to a lot of Apple things. They're going to be different uses for Vega that makes it more interesting than these cards are in the short term.
So Nicholas over on Facebook is wondering why AMD hasn't pursued any ex-NVIDIA talent to head their RTG.
I'm sure they have. It's a massive company with thousands of employees.
Right.
I'm sure there's intermingling.
Also, $212 shares, I think, probably help a little bit.
One thing, yeah, right. One thing I find interesting from this whole ordeal, because like reading forums and stuff, a lot of people feel kind of betrayed by the defection. I think it's really interesting. Yeah, it's pretty nuts out there in some of those places. But I think it's really interesting. Like, if you think about NVIDIA and you think about Intel, you can't say, hey, X person is the head of GeForce. X person is the head of Intel Core CPU. As normal consumers, you or I might be able to. I think it's really interesting that AMD's marketing the past few years played up the whole Radeon Rebellion stuff and did push Raja and a couple other people out in the spotlight. And now it's kind of backfiring, I think. I just find that interesting. You know what I mean?
To build it on a personality. Yeah. It's like the Verizon guy, right? He's at Sprint now. You're like, what?
So yeah, that's kind of what it's like. That's what it's going to be the same if Lisa Su ever leaves with Ryzen. I think 'cause a lot of people have put a lot on the cult of personality of Lisa Su as well, and I just think it's an interesting tactic, and I think it's kind of burning them right now.
Yeah, but it's something you got to sort of do. I mean, it's like T-Mobile, right? When you're playing the underdog and you're playing the scrappy underdog, look at the T-Mobile dude, whatever his name is.
John Legary.
Yeah, okay, but he looks like I gotta say, is like I like what they do, right? I'm a Verizon user, which is like more of a Verizon prisoner, but it'd be nice to like T-Mobile's like, hey, that guy's so scrappy. I like what he does.
Yeah,
I'm not going to use T-Mobile, but.
I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, though, that people are so impassioned about it that they are giving AMD grief for this move, because it means that with the whole personality angle, they've managed to earn that level of passion from their fans. So given that they have so much they're up against, I think they kind of need that in their corner. They can't afford to just be another faceless behemoth of a corporation.
True. Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's kind of unfair to say, betrayal too. I mean, everybody.
Oh yeah, I was quoting the internet.
Oh no, I know you're quoting the internet. I just think, what are you going to do, right?
It's like a sports team. When one player moves to a different team, people get real upset about it sometimes.
Right. I mean, we'll never know what spurred the move. Is it just? I mean, but maybe it's like the promise of like, hey, we're gonna, you couldn't do this. You can't do this with the resources and the funding of AMD. We're gonna do this. We are gonna let you conquer NVIDIA. Right. We're gonna give you the resources to beat NVIDIA, which
and triple your salary.
And the salary too. And then maybe that's a super attractive thing. Like, I mean,
if we are speculating, I also think it's also entirely possible that if you've been at the helm of something for a few years and you've been pouring your, whole life and soul into it, and you actually do take a real sabbatical and you realize the ship hasn't fallen apart without you at the helm, that, oh, maybe I can take other opportunities. Like my team is so good that they don't have to have me at the helm. And I can go pursue something on a personal level that, is a little new, that recharges me.
That's a really good point. And then I will also say, everybody has a price. I have a price.
Are you going to name it?
I'm not saying that if Apple said,
he's announcing
we
right
need a
now
spokesperson for Apple's gaming lineup.
Confirmed.
I have a price. I would like... That's just the way it is.
And then suddenly Gordon's coming to the office with an iPhone, a MacBook Pro.
Everybody
You get the
says...
shadow of him dancing in the Apple commercial.
Oh, and there's nothing better than this Apple laptop that I'm using. See the Apple logo on this Apple laptop? See? Apple laptop.
Nice.
With touch.
Snipe over on YouTube says he thinks the only critic he can think of Raja is maybe Navi, since it was his baby, but, he did good stuff over there.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting because really Navi was more of, I don't think Vega was probably already in the works when he sort of took over RTG, right?
That's kind of what the rumors are. So the rumors have always said that Navi will be his full thing, but who knows? I mean, we're not inside there, so.
Also, Sai, a friend of the show, Sai on Facebook says, hey, the Radeon Rebel is right here. We have survived without Raja. We will survive. Or we've survived. Yes. Anyway, you get the idea. It's Friday.
Yeah. Also, I just got an email from NVIDIA, and they are looking for the GeForce Rebel. It'll pay 10 times more to switch the logo. Everybody, I'm just saying everybody, people get a little too hung up, and this is not a sports team. And by the way, Kevin Durant plays for the Warriors now. It's just not, right? It's not the end of the world.
It's a sore spot.
True.
But you know what I hope out of all this? I hope that Intel chips start using FreeSync. That's what I want.
Yeah.
Nice.
See, but the thing is, they do support it. They have said they would support it. They just have, it doesn't seem like
they haven't done it.
I got to say, like, who cares? Like, what do you really need FreeSync to run that on your integrated graphics on your Kaby Lake part?
That's
Core
when you need
i3.
it the most.
FreeSync does not work at 6 frames a second. It's just not. It does not.
But I mean, realistically speaking, we've seen those Steam surveys. There are so many people playing on integrated graphics that Brad has a very valid point.
Yeah, I know.
At that point, you might as well just get an Xbox One X, right?
Why, Adam? Why did you rail it again?
Actually, Foo Barbarian says Gordon's next move will be to go to the Xbox team.
Oh, by the way,
the price is right.
Xbox is awesome. It's just the best deal in time. I find when I'm playing on my machine at 60 to 75 or 90 frames a second, I get headaches. So it's actually been proven. We have some Microsoft-funded scientists to show that 30 frames a second at 4K is just, it really does reduce eye strain. There's too many frames. Doctor, what's wrong with me? Things look so sharp at these high texture ultra settings on the PC. Well, clearly, if you filter it down some more.
If you put it through the Xbox filter.
See, I could do it. I could do this.
Perfect.